All right, Dave, we're going to end the podcast with a little fun segment. I mean, Bulls fans got really angry at me on a couple of my opinions.
You said some things you shouldn't have said.
Well, the first thing I'll say, and this is me clarifying it, I do not think Markkanen is going to be a backup. I was saying in certain situations after we trade Rolo, we can kind of put him out there at the center position. He would be the backup, with air quotes, for the center position, but you could also put Bobby there as well. He is going to be our starting four. There is no question about it. But the main thing I want to talk about with the Bulls, and this kind of is a stemming conversation from that comment section, is basically this, Dave, and I will ask you straight to the point as I do every time.
Yep.
Will the Bulls make the playoffs this season?
And it's such a tough answer because
we're going to start off with will, and then later we'll talk about should.
All right. So if I'm looking at this, and let me just check the standings from last year, standings 2018. I'm real professional here where I prepped, and you can clearly tell. It took 43 wins to get into the East last year. 43 wins. Do I think the Bulls can jump from tanking and winning 27 to 43? I think that they can get close. I think that we're probably going to be like a 38 probably like a 38 win team. With us actually playing, if we get everybody healthy, we could win 43 games. If everyone's healthy and we get a weirdly good season out of, continued development out of Zach, out of Chris, out of, I think pretty much everybody at that point, you just need to get contributions across the board.
Can Jabari not be injured?
Can Jabari be healthy? Can he play the three efficiently?
Can he play defense? No.
We don't really care about that part because you don't get paid for defense, Ricky. No, I think there's an outside shot, yes. I think that it's a super young core, and I think that the problem is if we move Rolo, we lose one of the veterans who might be a great locker room guy. Like, it's weird to say, I know we're full on locker room space, but like I would almost be like, can we get like Richard Jefferson in here? Can we get a guy who is just known for his locker room influence? No, seriously. He is a wonderful professional.
I do. I like him.
He is super well spoken. He knows the game. He knows the ins and outs. And I think he will be a coach, if not an analyst, for like ESPN or something full time after he retires. But we need someone like that if we are going to go for the playoffs. That's the thing. We're so young this year. We have so little experience. So I think that if we came close, it'd be really intriguing to see if we kind of went for it.
My whole thing for this season, and this is kind of going to come into will and should.
Right.
I'll do it this way. Can the Bulls make the playoffs? Yes. LeBron's gone. The East is wide open.
Yikes.
I've made that joke now a million times
today
on this podcast. Yeah. But it's not going to stop because basically I'm mocking it at this point. Will the Bulls make the playoffs? I'm going to say no. Because to me, I look at it this way. Let's go back to that joke I keep saying. LeBron left, the East is wide open.
Yep.
Is it? The Raptors are still going to make the playoffs. The Celtics aren't going to drop out. The 76ers aren't going to drop out. The Pacers aren't going to drop out. The Bucks aren't going to drop out, and I don't think the Wizards are. The Heat, I don't think will, but I left them off because I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Potential.
There are two spots. Realistically, I only see one spot. Like, I still have the Heat in my playoff right now. The Cavaliers, they are falling off the face of the earth.
Sexton, CD.
I love Sexton. I love K-Love. I think that we're set up for a top 10 Cleveland pick in this year's draft. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Well, it's been proven that LeBron leaves the first time and they fall to the bottom.
It's not proven because they didn't have Kevin Love on that team.
And that's the thing. Like
Do you forget the fact that Kevin Love drags the Timberwolves to like 30-plus wins?
I don't think that team makes that team makes the bottom line. I don't think they make the playoffs.
But I think they're in the same range as Charlotte. I don't think they're a top 10. I think they're a 12.
The top 10 is a different discussion for another day.
We'll table it.
They don't make the playoffs though. So realistically, that's one spot, maybe two in there. I think that Charlotte will be better this year. Are they going to be playoff good? I don't know, but they're going to be better. I expect the Pistons to make the playoffs this year.
We were all really disappointed in the Pistons whiffing.
Well, and now to me, you get, and I know that some people like Dwayne Casey, other people don't.
I don't know who doesn't like Dwayne
Casey is a good coach, and he just was coach of the year, and he's going to coach that team better than Stan Van did because they're not going to build a fucking wall. They're actually going to play basketball.
Look, man, Boban and Drummond were one hell of a wall.
Like my playoff right now.
But a healthy Reggie is going to be a lot to that team.
And that's the one question of like, I know what point guards we were kind of discussing with Sean. Yeah. Sean's like, really? Reggie Jackson? You're like, yeah, Reggie Jackson if he's good.
I don't love the man, but he can score points.
And then you made the joke, Ish.
I love Ish. Ish is my boy. Another shout out to Ish.
But realistically, without seedings, I see the only team from last year's playoff in the East bouncing out for me is the Cavs. And for me, right now, I got the Pistons taking their spot. And, I mean, to me, I feel like all the other teams that didn't make the playoffs in the East are still not going to make the playoffs. Now, are the Bulls going to be better? Are they going to be better than 27 games? Maybe, but that brings me to my second point. The biggest thing for this season, and this for me, is why I am down on the Bulls and why some people in the last video are like, oh, man, this guy, Ricky just wants him to tank. It's a difference of, it's not this season where it's like I'm rooting for us to lose.
Right.
Like if Zach and Jabari and Chris Dunn and Markkanen, they all play lights out.
Wendell
I am going to be
Jr.
Wendell is a rookie, so like I'm expecting some rookie woes with him. I'm just talking about the guys who are like, Zach is 23.
Yeah.
Jabari's 23.
Yep.
Those are the main two, Zach and Jabari.
Yeah, no, they should show their leadership.
What am I going to get from you? Because, like, Zach in particular, the whole reason why I didn't want to give him that contract that the Kings offered him is because he hasn't proven what he could be fully off of that injury. And I know most of it is offensive and defensive. When he came back off of the injury, he did show his athleticism, which was good coming off of an ACL injury. But my worry is still there. I haven't seen what you can fully become. Jabari, I don't know what to expect from you because you're
a slashing wing.
First off, you're coming off of 2 ACL injuries. Number 2, the role that I think we want to play you on this team, I'm not confident in you in that role. So you have to prove me wrong. Then number 2, I'll be honest. Number 3. It makes me laugh that he said it. Like the whole thing about the score about not playing defense.
Yeah.
It made me laugh because Brandon Swanson says that all the time about the NBA.
Yeah.
That they just don't play defense. I got a little research for you when you say that defensive players don't get paid. Pulling up the salaries from this past, or the 2018-2019 salaries for last year's points per game leaders and the all defense first team. The points per game leaders, James Harden, $30 million, Anthony Davis, $25 million, LeBron, $36 million, Lillard, $28 million, and Giannis at $24 million. The all defense first team, Drew Holiday, $26 million. Davis, $25 million, because Anthony Davis was on both, by the way. Gobert, $23 million, Oladipo, $21 million, and really bringing down this average, Rocco, $10 million. Where the averages aren't far off, like, the scoring leaders are at 29 compared to 21, but I wouldn't say $8 million is a huge difference in...
Jabari Parker, $20 million. Marcus Smart, $12 million. Spot on.
I mean, a little bit, but
No, it's exactly spot. It's your $8 million.
I'm looking at these averages going, you know what? Like
$8 million is a lot of money.
Yes, you get paid more to be a scorer.
Yeah.
But I think that he was trying to make the gap wider than it is.
Did Tony Allen ever cash in? Is Andre Roberson ever going to cash in?
More. I'm not saying that defensive players are ever going to make more than scorers because obviously it's like, and here's another thing that I know Amin Al-Hassan made on the jump when they were talking about. I love him, Amin. But he was saying they pulled up this list and he goes, "So you're telling me LeBron never played defense, huh? Telling me LeBron never played LeBron doesn't play defense. James Harden doesn't play defense.
Argued at times.
Literally, like his main point was LeBron.
These are,
and then they made the joke of regular season playoffs is when we're talking about LeBron playing defense.
Yeah.
But, like, that to me, back to my main point.
Exceptional players, but we're not talking about exceptional. We're not talking about the cream of the crop. We're talking about excellent defensive specialists versus excellent offensive specialists.
Yeah, and I just with this Bulls
Lou Will
team,
counter argument. To be fair,
well, he
signed an extremely team friendly deal. No, he didn't get paid. He signed like a deal for what, like $9 million a year.
True.
Like that was.
He got his contract with the Clippers. That's what he wanted.
He wanted a long term deal, and
that's what he really wanted. But with the Bulls, it's my biggest question and my biggest worry.
Sure.
Is Zach and Jabari, where I know that like I am excited about Markkanen. I'm hoping that he can make that next progression into this year. Wendell Carter, seeing him in Summer League has got me excited for him to where I know there was a comment that's like, oh, well, Ricky said that at the draft he wanted
still on McHale.
He wanted McHale or Wendell, and then years down the line, I'm not that kind of a guy. I will always say that on draft day, I wanted McHale over Wendell Carter, but I'm not going to hate Wendell Carter for that. Like, that's going to be my belief for the rest of time. I'm expecting him to just go through a rookie year and get better like rookies do. But the whole thing with this Bulls team is because of the questions with Zach, because of the questions with Jabari, where's our timeline? I don't know where our timeline is. And, like, I look at articles where one of them from the fan-sided website Pippin Ain't Easy, where Luke Askin talked about how it's officially time for the tanking to end in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I see his point. Like, yeah, you're getting excited. Like, you get excited about Wendell in Summer League. You get excited about seeing Markkanen. Like, Chris Dunn played well that year. But for me, I feel like the ultimate question comes down to is, what would you rather have on this Bulls team? Would you rather have them make it to the playoffs as an 8 seed, ultimately get bounced by the Celtics, but get that playoff experience?
Yeah.
Or get and I'm just going to throw it out here. I'm just throwing this pick out here for the argument, or get a top 10 pick and get that kind of a player to add to this core and then start that next year. Start that playoff run and that experience next year compared to this year.
To be fair, we don't know how deep this draft is, so I don't know the value of a top 10 pick versus a top 3 pick. It could be another, what was that, the Giannis draft where, like, looking at it, it looked like hot garbage, and now we're starting to see players start to excel a bit later in their careers, but still, we don't know if this is going to be a like uber rich draft or a like super shallow one. So not so sure if top 10 is worth value if you're at that 7, 8, 9, 10 area as much as it would have been this past year with getting Wendell Carter Jr. And we're seeing guys super deep in this draft look like they can contribute at a high level.
Here's the thing, and I did a little bit of research with this I'm bringing our now Garpax into the situation because they're a whole nother worry in this whole Bulls situation.
They've had some good, they had some bad.
Let's say the Bulls
got the facts of life.
Let's say the Bulls make the play. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and now you have the facts of life. Let's say the Bulls do make the playoffs, sake of argument, 15th pick. Okay. So they're the last pick outside of the lottery.
Yeah, we squeak right in.
If I look at picks from 2004, because Paxson he took on his role 2003.
Yep.
Gar Forman took on his role 2004.
Yep.
So I'm using 2004 as the barometer.
Sure.
Spoiler alert, if I use 2003, Kurt Heinrich would help me out a little bit. But from 2004, if we look at picks in that 15 range, here's who we got. Rodney Carney.
Nothing.
We've got James Johnson.
He actually turned out to be a pretty good player.
Kevin Seraphin. I'm talking about how they were on the Bulls.
I'm just saying, James Johnson's good.
Yeah, but I mean, on the Bulls, he didn't do anything for us drafting.
It's because we so shit the bed a little bit.
I'm going to throw Tony Snell in there, although he was 20.
Succeeded.
Here's the thing that pisses me off, because this would have been something to like diffuse my point, but we fucked up and traded for Dougie McBuckets. We would have had Gary Harris at 19 and Yusuf Nurkic at 16. Like,
there's no telling we would have drafted that.
Hindsight's 2020. There's no telling we would have drafted that.
Harris was actually a maybe, though.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
like Nurkic was not.
Looking at what they were, like, you look at that and go, oh, that could have been so good.
Yeah.
And then Denzel Valentine was 14. Not the best Bull. And I was really high on Denzel coming out of that
veteran
draft.
leadership.
And then, like, And then Justin Patton was technically 16, but I'm pushing him away. That's the Markkanen pick.
Yep.
So then I look at if we have top 10 picks. And what I see, you see, if I include 2003, Heinrich was 7. Third overall in 2004, Ben Gordon. Then we've got LaMarcus Aldridge, second overall.
Is your point that top 10 picks are better than picks between 10 and 20? Because that's how the goddamn lottery works.
My point is with, and I don't know if this is a guard pack situation. Like Derrick Rose was top 10. Joakim Noah was number 9.
Yep.
You also had, I think there's one more. Oh, Wendell 7, and then Markkanen 7 as well. My point is with this management is it seems like, because other teams have drafted in those teen ranges and found guys that work. I will say Jimmy and Taj are 2 exceptions. Those guys were far later, and we
Not
did
that
hit,
far later. Taj was 23, 22.
Jimmy was 30, and then Taj was, where's Taj? 26.
26,
So they were after 20.
Point
and
being,
what
we
I'm
can
saying
find talent later.
And no, what I'm saying is based off of what I'm seeing is we're not going to be as late as we were when we got Jimmy and Taj because we're not going to be going that far and being that high of a record. So for me, based off of what I've seen with Garpax, and maybe this is me diving way too into it and going way too down this rabbit hole, Garpax can find talent in the top 10. When we get to that mid-lottery range or just outside the lottery, Garpax doesn't pick the guys that are right for this team and right for our future.
I mean, it's hard to say because at different times we're drafting for different things.
Exactly.
Like, you can tell that the Denzel Valentine pick, that was a desperation strike to go ahead and try to get someone who can fit on this Jimmy Butler team. He was part of the plan of get someone who is ready to play in the NBA. And even that was a half-assed whiff at that one. But we went for someone who's a veteran leader who was, solid. But I think the thing that you have to go back and look at is just it's easier to hit picks in the top 10. Let's just be honest. Yes, I know some teams are awful at it, like the Kings or, whatever, but like
Bobby was also 22. I forgot about him.
Yeah, another solid pick. God, that was a good year. But no, I think that your point of, yes, we've drafted well in the top 10. We haven't drafted great in the teens. I mean, it's not like mind-blowing. Like the teens are a weird place to draft because you get guys who aren't clear standouts, but you're not totally reaching for talent, like for potential at the end of the day. So I don't know. I feel comfortable with them drafting anywhere. Yes, I know we fucked up and late on the draft. We also had whiffs like Marcus Teague and Norris Cole. But like it's gonna happen. No one's amazing at the draft.
Well, and my bottom point with that is basically with the management we have, and I know we could go on a Fire Garpax podcast basically all day.
I mean, I'm mixed results.
I'm saying the fan base. Like there's a big part of the Bulls fan base that wants to fire Garpax.
We literally paid to put up a sign blocks away from the arena.
Hashtag Fire Garpax. But with this ownership, what it's proven to me in this history is that let's give if we want a good draft pick, let's give them that opportunity to get a guy that we can't miss on. Like you said, top 10 pick, it's no brainer that they're going to be better. Well, let's give them that so they can get us one of those instead of whiffing on a guy in the mid-teens. That's just something that I looked at because now the question is, should the Bulls make the playoffs? Like, the benefits of it, like I said, you make the playoffs, you get that playoff experience, or you get a higher draft pick. I'm hoping we don't. If we miss the playoffs at 14, then at that point, I'm like, just make the playoffs at that point. But, like, if you're going to be a top 10.
But you got the percentage.
Like, unless we're getting Derrick Rose, like, getting those opportunities, like, not many times that pulls through for us. Like, I didn't even think we were going to get the first pick when we got it that year.
I mean, had we not won the coin flip, we would have been the number 2 pick.
True.
So, who knows?
Well, the coin flip, because there's always the lottery is rigged in the NBA and those conspiracies. Right. I'll ask you kind of flipping it, should the Bulls make the playoffs?
If the players are good enough to get there, you shouldn't tank. The only way I feel good about tanking is when you're playing on a roster where even at their best, they're not able to win games. But you are letting the kids run. You are letting them grow, and you're seeing what they can put out. You're seeing them grow together. Like, a team like the Suns isn't going to make the playoffs in the West. Sorry, Ziani. I know we just had you on, but they're not going to do it. But you know what? They're going to have a ton of fun watching incredibly young, talented players play together and watch them grind out some games. You're going to lose a lot of close games because you don't have veterans out there to close for you. But you do have Devin Booker, who's electric on offense. You do have DeAndre Ayton, who is a monster and can like walk out of bed and drop 19 and 9. I just think that you can't tell a team that they're going to intentionally lose games when you have a young team like this, because you saw some of the effects from guys who were around the 76ers who were like, we lost games, but we weren't being pulled from games to lose them. It's not like they set guys because they were too hot.
And let's be honest, we would have had a worse record if guys like Kilpatrick didn't go off.
If Nico didn't play for the Bulls, we would have won like 14 games this year instead of 26 or whatever it was. Like, you have to remember, we were like 3-19 or something stupid, 3-17, I forget what it was, before he came back. And then we caught fire because we had someone who was talented and who can shoot the ball. Like, that's all it took. So, no, I think that Lowry at the 4, getting full minutes, getting 30-plus minutes a game is going to be awesome. I think that Zach, full season, playing alongside Chris Dunn, huge for us. I think Jabari's going to be the mystery man. And I think Wendell's going to come into the NBA ready, and just amaze people, because we didn't get to see him being him because he was playing next to Bagley. So I think this team could make the playoffs. I think they're a 35, 38 win team. To be honest,
when we got to
but they're going to lose a lot of close games.
When we got to the conference tournament, there were some guys that were like, "Wow,
I was one of them who said it out loud on the show."
But like, there were other people too that are like, maybe Wendell's better than Bagley.
Yeah.
Like, watching that ACC tournament, like Brandon even brought up, he's like, "Man, Wendell, like, Bagley didn't look good until Wendell got back out on the floor." And it's like there were national analysts saying, hey, you know what? Maybe he could be better. One comment I want to bring up that we got on our full podcast from this past week.
Sure.
I got to throw a shout out to Chester Hardy for putting it in. He said, red shirt. That was me, by the way.
Yep.
How many teams have been in the lottery for multiple years and still have nothing to show for it? If the Bulls team makes the playoffs, it's an indication that the team has promise, which might entice free agents to play here in Chicago.
It's true.
This is the last point I wanted to get to, because for me, up until this point, my biggest reason for being more on the I'd be happier with a top 10 pick than a playoff berth this year is because, like I said before, I don't know what to expect from Zach. I don't know what to expect from Jabari. And those are some main pieces. Like Chris Dunn, I believe he's going to be, and we got one more player up on our team up on him, and then he's up this year. I'd have to look at it. But the thing is, for me, because I have that worry, right now, I'm obviously saying, no, I don't want to be in the playoffs. But if this year, those two, and we got a team up on Chris Dunn, then he's an RFA.
Yeah.
If Zach LaVine shows up and it's like, wow, oh, great, I'm seeing some promise in this team.
If he goes back to dropping 20 a night.
Exactly.
On efficient numbers.
This team can change my opinion. Like, just because I said right now, hey, I'd rather have a top 10 pick, doesn't mean by the All-Star break I'm going to think the same thing. I got to see Zach play. I got to see Jabari play, and that could change how I feel right now.
Baby Bulls V2, baby. But I think one of the things that pisses most people off is the fact that you're saying, I think they should tank. Now, by they should tank, what do you mean? How do they go about tanking with this roster?
I'm gonna flip it a little bit because
answer the goddamn question.
Well, I'm saying, like, I don't want the Bulls. Like I said at the very beginning, it's not like this year where it's like, please let us lose games. I'm not going into it with that. But if I'm looking crystal ball at the end of the year, I would be happier at this point with a top 10 pick than a playoff
How do they get
berth.
to that top 10 pick?
How do they get to that top 10 pick? The way they get to that top 10 pick is if Jabari either isn't what we thought he was, or he gets injured. Zach isn't what we expected. And, like, really to get to that top 10, those two need to not cripple into nothing, but not be what we want them to be, but then also if we get rid of Rollo, that's going to obviously hurt the team a little bit right now, help us in the future, because I'm hoping that we can get I don't know if we will, but I'm hoping we can get some type of draft pick.
Like pick 26? Rollo.
Like we did with the Pelicans. Like get a playoff pick for that. And that's
Nico's better than him, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, some team
might need a center.
Throw a pick at it for us.
We'll see.
In order to be a top 10, I feel like we'd have to have injuries or have Jabari or Zach not play up to where we want them to be.
Do you think you have to move Bobby P?
That's an interesting one. I don't know. Because the thing with Bobby P is, I'll ask you this kind of flip side.
Yep.
Do you think there's a team next offseason that offers him an offer sheet like the Kings did to Zach?
I don't know if he gets 20 mil.
No, but an offer sheet to where...
Yeah, I think teams are going to be interested in him. He has grown a lot.
Would you move him?
I think his value is right. Absolutely. I think he is an amazing small ball 5 energy guy off the bench. He's exactly what I want as a 6-man. But if what I expect could happen where I think Hutchison develops into a premier 6-man wing, I would rather have another wing than I would have a 6-man small center, a small ball center / power forward, where I can just slide Jabari to the 4 and Lowry to the 5.
Who Bobby can he can
Wendell's
shoot the outside, but Chandler, we drafted him to be that, basically.
Right. So that's the thing. I like him. I don't know if the money's going to be right. If he's looking for 12 mil next year, maybe. But also, there's a lot of free agents out there next year, and we're a team with money to spend. So, it really depends on how well Jabari looks, because if Jabari looks good, I feel comfortable moving Bobby.
Well, I'll ask you this then, because this is the last part to that, is with Zach and Jabari obviously having to play well.
Yep.
The other thing is what Zach said. When Zach came here, one of the best things I liked that came out of his mouth when he was in a Bulls press conference was that my main goal, and I liked it because Derrick Rose was never like this, and this is the only thing that I really hated about Derrick, is Zach was like, I am going to recruit for this team. I am going to bring in guys to play with me and make this team better. Something that Derrick Rose never did. Did I want Melo? Not really. But to see your star player go, fuck that, I'm going to be over here while you're trying to court this guy and bring...
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Where that's my biggest question is, to bring in free agents, I look at Zach and go, all right, buddy, it's time to basically nut up and shut up. Or nut up or shut up. Of basically, are you going to be able to do what you said you're going to do? And are you really going to do it?
I don't know if he's good enough to bring in free agents. I'm sorry. I don't respect him as one of the top players in the league. I think Lowry's a better player than he will be. I think that people would rather play with Lowry than they would with a guy who is just a volume shooter and an inefficient one at that right now. So unless he has an impressive season, I don't see players coming and, him being like, oh yeah, come play with us. You get to play either, unless he's trying to replace, point guard or small forward role. I don't know who they're going to go after. So I think the problem is that he isn't good enough to recruit top free agents, and he probably isn't going to. He's not good enough to recruit top free agents unless he has a breakout season this year.
Well, and that's one thing that did cross my mind a little bit of if I was a top guy, would I be like, yeah, I want to go play with Zach LaVine, man. Yeah. And really that's going to play into, what does he show us from this year? What are we going to see from him? And I mean, the last point I'll make about the whole, with me on one side, because I feel people will be like, oh my God, Ricky, how are you on the rather have a top 10 pick right now than be in the playoff? I think a little part of it was doing our mock draft, our way too early. And I get it's way too early. We haven't seen these kids play. But I looked at where the Bulls were on Tankathon, and I looked at some of the guys that could be there in that range, and I'm just looking at it going, man, put one of these wings with that young core we got right now, then that's a team where it's like, all right, I think we're ready. I think we're ready to make that next step, because I mentioned it with the Hawks, the whole Warrior comparison, because they're the gold standard in this league. the thing that changed our timeline compared to theirs, because think of Markkanen as the beginning. Markkanen's the first piece. Wendell's the next piece. The only thing that we had that they didn't was we traded Jimmy to get Chris and Zach to come in. Yep. And they didn't sign a guy like Jabari. So, I mean, with having Zach, having Chris done, that kind of changes our timeline a little bit from that Warrior. Hey, if Markkanen is like the Steph Curry pick and we get 4 years from that before we make the playoffs, getting LaVine and getting Chris Dunn accelerated that timeline a little bit.
And paying for Jabari, I think, continues to. If he's healthy, he was a 20-point-a-game scorer.
Which, looking back at that, by the way, I called that amount with not even knowing. Like, if we give him $20 million. But the thing I really like about that deal, hindsight, because, of course, we kind of jumped the gun on that deal.
Player op. Team op.
I love how I'm going to compare it to Mike Glennon in Chicago, where basically the Bears did the same thing, where it's like, hey, we'll give you, I think it was a 2-year, 3-year contract, but we got that out after the first year, which they used.
Yep.
The Bulls, if he gets injured or they don't like the marriage, they can get out of it, whatever.
And then they got money to spend in free agency.
Exactly. I wouldn't be totally upset if the Bulls made the playoffs because that means they're good and I want this team to be good, but I'm not going to be completely upset if this team is in the top 10 of the draft next year because of the type of players that I'm already seeing in that top 10 already. Any final thoughts before we end up the shop today?
I think a lot of people misunderstand, or you misunderstand, the phrase tank then. That's my takeaway from this, because you're saying...
I'm going to put it on me. I'm not putting it on them.
Yeah, you're pretty much saying unless people completely bust out between, like bust as in like underperform between Jabari, Zach LaVine, or they just get injured, you don't know that we're bad enough to get a top pick.
A part of it, too,
so like tanking is like intentionally playing players who don't deserve to be out there, which I don't think we have anyone on our roster at this point after we just cut Zipser.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anyone. The Zip God. I respect the man, but he's not an NBA.
He knew he was getting cut, too.
I think that we've got a super young, super talented team. I don't know if we're necessarily going to win a ton of games, but I think that 30 to 35 is totally reasonable.
And where that was coming from, obviously, was, like I've said, and I can't say it enough, the uncertainty of what we're going to get from Zach this year. Mainly
and Jabari. Like, you don't even know.
I throw in Jabari, but like Jabari,
you seem to hate Jabari because you're trying to get a wing.
No. Like
that's my takeaway.
Jabari isn't a huge if he's bad this year, I'm not going to sweat because we're out at the end of the year. Like, if we didn't have that team up, then I'd be like, all right, Jabari, you better play up. But, if Jabari fizzles out this year, I'm not going to be totally upset because we can get out of it next year. Zach is the big one because we matched that offer.
Yeah.
And I understand why we matched the offer because we traded Jimmy for you. He wasn't the only thing, but basically
he was 1/3 of the Jimmy trade.
We got Markkanen, we got Dunn, we got LaVine, and LaVine was one of the big pieces, I'll say, at the time.
Going into the trade.
Exactly.
Coming out of it, it looks like Lowry's by far.
I mean, you can't just say, we're going to let you walk, giving what they gave up to get him. So I understand that, but he's got to play up, man. He's got to show us that everything that he's been saying right now isn't just talk, and that he's going to be a piece to help this team and carry this team and be the leader of this team and be a veteran on this team. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. Will the Bulls make the playoffs? Can the Bulls make the playoffs? Should the Bulls make the playoffs? Everything in between what you think about this Bulls team. Also, want to thank Z for joining us today. If you're listening to the individual segment, go check out the other ones. If you're listening to the full podcast, thank you guys for sticking all the way through. A little bit of housekeeping here at the very end. Make sure to check out patreon.com/MostValuedPodcast so you can be like Z and join a podcast yourself and talk about whatever you want. You can come on the podcast and just tell me how much of an idiot I am for my takes on the podcast. I will.
We'll
jump sit here and talk to you about it. But you can check that link down below in the description. You can also check out our store. That's in the description as well. You can also check that out at mostvaluedpodcast.com, where you can catch MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, if you're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, make sure to give the Fast Break a 5-star rating and let us know why you like listening to the podcast each and every week. I want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. I want to thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. Me and this guy will be back next week because Sean's going to be on a family vacation.
True.
So we'll be back next week.
Get used to it.
Have a good day, everybody.